Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And what do you know? Somehow it's fucking Friday again. So let's get rolling, guys. Up first tonight is Rudy.
Is it Friday?
Is it? Fuck. I know we've gotten a few people showed up, so if it's not Friday, we're going forward anyway.
Yeah, okay. So tonight tonight we're gonna find out on Unsolved Mysteries who gives a shit about poetry. Update.
Shadowbane.
Looks like nobody. Yeah, Shadowman, exactly. Okay, you put it in there already. Okay. Um, yeah, so I'm just gonna read some poetry. This is pretty mean-spirited, nasty poetry. I wrote when I was really pissed off this week. So cool. First one is called Niabak. So let me get my reading thing here out. I'm so fucking retarded. Hold on. Okay, so this first one is called Niabak, which is not a word spelled backwards or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. Uh, After the two demons, Niabak and Trok, crawled inside the peg leg boy and made him gay, he still hawked items to adventurers while taking cum shots, but he continued to change with each load, like his wares, eventually becoming sullen, despondent, and hollow. And because Diablo is a parable about turning away from God for numbing material gain, his last act was suicide, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Next one is called this poem is about Shadowbane. If you don't know what Shadowbane is, there's a picture of the game right here. Most people probably don't know what Shadowbane is because it was a really dog shit game from the early 2000s. It was complete ass and dog shit. But that's a picture of it. It was actually a really good game. I know I just said two really conflicting things, whatever. From about 15 on, it's all wandering until you're gilded. A guild is a family that carries you through your 20s, gives you a place, not just a way to train, and whisks you through some desert from experience hole to experience hole until you aren't sure if you're playing anymore. And then when you're 50 or 60, hasn't happened yet, but eventually you'll get there. The Chinese come at 3 a.m. and raise your fucking city. Next one is called Nike. Suggest going limp for 180 days. Suggest going limp when the truant officer comes. Suggest going limp when your parents yell at you. Suggest going limp when they put you on Zoloft. Suggest going limp when you try to masturbate on Zoloft. Suggest going limp when they have you institutionalized. Suggest going limp when the institution wants you to do group. Suggest going limp when they try to make you do a correspondence course. School? Like Lulu, I recommend skipping. Nah, dodging. Spare the rod. This game isn't going to 45. Anyway, ignorance is better. Yep, this poem is telling kids to skip school unironically. Just walk away from the humongous brick and mortar life trap. Walk out of purely personal disgust, not for Chinese whispers burning the cobwebs off of your web stunted empathy, not for something happening in Iran. I ran the fuck out of college. Run home, don't walk, fool. Run home singing. Singing to rely, to rely, to rely. Or some pop lyrics, or the praises of 19th century workhouses. Workhouses were fucking awesome. The punk houses of the day, offending snobs like Upton and Charlie. Are you Usain Bolting yet? Are you on the double quick yet, boyo? Are you the Buddy Prince of Africa? In 500 years, some cyst of a teacher might search the grid for examples of early 21st century nihilism, find this poem by accident, and let the AI perform it for their class with some holographic composite of me standing in for the me that is long dead. Great Resignation, COVID, New York Times, poetry, art. Those are some keyword breadcrumbs, if keywords are even a thing still. In the unlikely event this is read before a class, I hope it plays in someone's mind, neural link, like that scene from the last episode of Andor with the old woman's hologram saying something about fighting these bastards. A spoiler. And I'm not telling anyone to break a brick over their teacher's fat head or shoot them with a blaster. I'm telling them to look down at their shoes. Inshallah, capitalist branding has survived, and internalize what they think when the logo speaks to them. This one is a feel-good one about North Country issues like domestic violence and Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's called "She Must Be an Angel for Staying with Them," or staying with him. I'm sorry. She must be an angel for staying with them. It's mostly the queen that starts shit. Well, the queen and the king in the north, the place where there are no kings but lots of bastards. A post something dreadscape, underwater from snow melt, opiates, lots of reasons for frayed, exposed nerves. But to be frank, or Tom, or Dick, or Stan, this motherfucker beats the shit out of his wife nearly every time he listens to We Will Rock You. And that's a little ridiculous. The causality there, I couldn't tell you. Though I can tell you that his son loves his dad and also loves everything sci-fi related, especially Neon Genesis Evangelion, and that his son is in his head while his guided missile rage is missing sheetrock, sometimes hitting. Fucking A. Always it starts in the brain with sympathetic characters. I'm sorry, Alanis. And sympathetic neurons completing a power-up sequence. They could be represented by one of those UI dazzle / horror shows from the anime streaming on the PlayStation he paid for. Ooh, light occluded eyes doing saccadic jump cuts between familiar clenched fists and the info bomb of the psychographic display. Norepinephrine being diffused to smooth muscle. The mental juxta of cartoons and life makes each of his facial grimaces and cope spits more palpable to the captive one boy audience in the bedroom window. His palpitations drum up Palpatine, Gendo, more cleft chin, more trebles cleft. Split chin incoming. He's approaching limits, danger. When the pillow erector muscles constrict at the minute and a half guitar riff. When the truck has been idling outside since 11:45 and it's past midnight, it's time for her to hide the kids, hide her disgust, wish for an AT field, settle for this double wide in a field, and pray things in without an overabundance of biblical imagery and her underground like Lilith. That's it.
Man. Man, I can feel the fucking venom in the Nike poems.
Oh yeah.
That's so good though. That's so, as someone who shares your sentiments about public education and especially about mandatory public education. That's a real power ballad for me. I tell you what, man. Oh man, though. Honestly, though, there's some fucking incredible turns of phrase in here, especially in the Nike poem. The fucking the punk houses or the workhouses were the punk houses of their time. One is that's pretty fucking brutal and I think ingenious. There's another one here. But yeah, and that just the idea of like the latent threat hiding in the poem, like the fantasy of the poem being discovered, being like scraped off the net and played for a class, and then the way that like turns is very, I think, good. Oh, but the Diablo poem. Where he said, and because Diablo is a parable about turning away from God for numbing material gain.
Yeah.
That's believable, honestly.
I mean,
I know
it's
it's
satirical,
but it's also believable that on some level, like that you could, if you squint, you could almost see it as exactly that, especially the way the game develops into like a numbing grind if you focus on just trying to accumulate stuff. I also like the suicide despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, which is really funny because of the condition you find his body in Diablo 2.
Yeah, or like his leg is torn off or some shit or
Like,
something.
and the town's on fire and everyone's
Yeah.
naked, and it's like, sure, maybe.
No.
Oh no,
What
man.
game are y'all talking about?
Diablo 1 and 2, I think he's in also. You find the demon that killed him in Diablo 2, I think.
His body is in
Oh,
Diablo
Diablo.
2.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, Diablo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, man, this is, as usual, this is good shit. The Shadowbane one, I love the end of the Shadowbane one.
Yeah, that happens frequently. They just raid your city at 3 a.m. because they can do that. So,
Because yeah, that's what happens in an MMO with a global population, especially after almost everyone from the West has left.
yeah, that's yeah.
All right, man. Good shit as usual.
Thanks.
Yeah, Troy, definitely. I'll put you on the list. We don't have that many people tonight, so yeah. Yeah, so thank you, Rudy, and Keko's up next.
Okay, hi. I really enjoyed Rudy's poems, by the way, especially Shadowbane.
Oh, thanks, Cal.
I mean, I was most focused. It's like I'm losing focus because I'm a bit retarded and because it's late. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed all of this, but yeah, Shadowbane really like touched me.
Oh, thank you. Did you play
Yeah.
Shadowbane? I should
No, I just really enjoyed the poem. I enjoyed the whole moment about the guilds. It kind of, I mean, the guilds are in many games, so
Yeah.
it's like, but yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
So for very short poems, it's yeah. The first one is stereotypes. So the stereotype. Having insanity that harms the body with pleasure and ecstasy pursues me and keeps me awake. Dean is to blame. Unceremonious success fed on all of my magic. Thanks, Internet. I, in search of purity, disturbed by aging farts, gladly succumb to the repetitive buzz. The second one is very busy, bitter, exhausted, estranged, haunted, basic. I picked up my notebook that fell off the sofa. For a minute, I hated everyone and it felt like coming. I'm somewhat sorry I didn't fulfill my promise. But tonight is red moon and black sun. I'm sorry. I choose not to hate that I'm sorry. To wonder endlessly how to be a king to all the peasants in my head. If I see a fire, I expect creation to come out of it. Why? A fire, a scream, an eye for an eye. I hate construction and destruction. If I hate destruction, does that mean I love it? Because if I love construction, I know I love construction. The third one is, I heard betas, follow them to Reddit, read their lament and comfort them. Yo, wimp, stop the simp. Can't you see she's got a slut limp? From a chimp who doesn't shave his balls. Love you alls. And dream suicide by proxy. Renting a place in a Demimon neighborhood, making an account, 6'4", 8 inches, persevering in pussy until I get an 8mm in the back.
These are really good, man, as usual. I love the last one. The last one is
yeah.
As usual, man, I love the like contrast between the poems and the titles, which is something you're really good at, because the kind of like dream suicide by proxy evokes a very different image than the poem after it evokes, right? The poem itself is like a really nasty kind of fantasy slash joke. And you can see after you've read that poem, the title makes more sense, right? But when you first read the title, you think it's going to be a kind of somber, like sad poem. And I love you consistently subvert expectations. But what I really fucking love about this batch of poems, or at least what really resonated with me as a dude now encroaching on middle age, as perhaps you are too, is that you capture a very particular kind of mix between hope and exhaustion that I think you can only experience at this point in your life when you still have a little energy left, right? When there's still a little bit of future in front of you and you can still hope a little bit, but you're also really fucking tired. And the first two poems, Stereotypes, and the especially Very Busy, Bitter, Exhausted, Estranged, Haunted, Basic, really get at that unique feeling where there's like these flickers of hope, these flickers of possibility, these flickers of like fantasy and energy in the midst of utter desolation and exhaustion. And I really dig that, man. It's good shit as usual. And welcome back too.
Thanks, double thanks.
Yeah, thank you, man. So Coleman's up next.
Hey, thanks. So I'm gonna be reading some Sinryu. If you know what that is, that's cool. But Sinryu, for anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of like it's haiku, but deals with human nature. It has the same 575 syllable count. It's also traditionally, like going back, years and years and years and years, kind of ironic and darkly humorous. So I'm gonna read some of those. There is no such thing as a six-legged spider unless you are cruel. No more green money, scrolling Venmo transactions, wrote cocaine is rent. Smoothie bar blender, pushing cucumbers through it, remember your dick. Side of the highway, Subaru wreck exploded. Women warm their hands. That drunk cannibal doesn't realize she's eating her own forearm. Uber Eats day shift, smoothies fill my freezer bag like kidney transplants. Her red painted toes splayed across the Ford dashboard, tiny exit wounds. This therapist claims all emotions are valid. My boyfriend eats knives. Legs of barbed wire, the prison cell my lover lets you suck his lock. Black widow spider, guilt written over dead flies, drinks her own venom. And then let me see. I have one more. It's not a Sinryu, but it's a longer poem. I've been into insects lately. It's called The Sad Mosquito. Nothing personal. You taste as good as anyone and I want to live. Palms crush our small skeletons. The blood you see is from whoever previous meal. People forget whose blood is on their hands. Most mosquitoes live 3 weeks. I want to be a concert pianist. I fuck my wife. She is a mosquito too. And that's all I have. Thanks a lot.
Coleman, those were fucking fantastic. I love the last line of the mosquito poem, by the way, because there's so much gravity to that poem, like the way it develops, like a legitimate, authentic kind of sadness over the course of the poem that you almost forget that the narrator is a mosquito, right? And so to end it with the like, I fuck my wife, she is a mosquito too, that it's like the punchline coming back in a way that disorients the reader or the listener, and I think is very effective. But I fucking love these other poems. I'm not at all familiar with the variation on haiku that you're talking about, but I fucking love I would read a whole book of those written by you, if I'm being completely honest, because My two favorites, I think, were the first one, the first spider one, right? Which is, it's perfect. It's perfectly compact because it offers almost a riddle, right? And then the solution to that riddle is is pure despair, really. Like the idea that like this kind of an aberration of nature would only occur through human cruelty. Um, and the other one that I really fucking loved was the Subaru poem. In fact, I said "damn" out loud to myself when you got to the women warming their hands line, because that is such, you pull such an effective emotional pivot in that poem, in the very short space of that poem. You go from like an image of real like desolation, right, with the Subaru burning, and a really vivid image too, to this oddly comforting one, or to this like, you get there's this real like emotional shift there that I think is fucking brilliant. But anyway, man, these are really fucking good, and you should keep writing in that style because I think you have a real fucking knack for it.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, that so does Sinryu have like haiku? Do they have the like seasonal word? What does something replace the seasonal word in that?
It's no seasonal word. No
Okay.
seasonal word. It's traditionally 575,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Sinryu like predates haiku.
Oh,
And I
okay.
guess that makes sense because it's like darker and I guess human nature or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of the only requirements are of I guess traditional Sinryu or the 575, and then
Gotcha.
the kind of darkly ironic humor, I guess.
Yeah, I love Sinryu. They have, I know there's a lot. There's a guy that wrote like some, I guess, old Japanese guy that wrote a bunch of them. They're like really vulgar. I guess they're all kind of vulgar, but he wrote like a book of like kind of like a Basho length book of like fucking really vulgar Sinryus. I was reading some of them. They're really cool. But I love those. I love the wreck one, the fucking Subaru wreck one. That is so fucking good. Women warm their hands. That's a great ending line.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'll have to check out what you're talking about if you remember the name.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. I'll look on Wikipedia. I was wikiing it a while ago.
Yeah, that's fucking rad, man. And Rudy, yeah, if you find out the name of that poet, you'll have to let me know as well. Maybe by the after party, you'll be able to drop in the chat. Anyway, yeah, thank you, man, Coleman. Up next, and right now last, is Troy, and it's not even 9 yet. So if anyone would like to read after Troy, just put something in the chat. And if not, we can close up early. It's not a big deal. But anyway, Troy, the floor is yours.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is called Someday Soon. The alien invasion that wakes me up turns out to be an ambulance screaming down First Street, hauling Miss Crenshaw to God only knows what hospital or hell. Briefly, I feel evil thinking about the back rent she owes, but the stub toe takes care of that, head held high after the pain allays. The duplex we share a wall with Crenshaw still smells of yesterday's burnt toast. I scratch as I run the faucet in the kitchen a minute to get the cold water going, a weird lump in my armpit. I briefly think about changing my deodorant brand. Maybe I developed an allergy to it or something. I take some antihistamine and swallow from the faucet. The water isn't cold. I try to go back to sleep. It's useless, can't stop thinking. And to make matters worse, my cat is sprawled like roadkill across the sofa, sawing logs like a gaggle of asthmatic old farts. It's only been a month since Roscoe left for Lisbon, commissioned to paint a mural on a large outcropping of rocks off the Atlantic coast. And I haven't slept well since he's gone, mostly due to my new schedule of trying to be awake enough to talk on the phone from different time zones. I started drinking coffee at night. Now I don't need the coffee, just can't sleep. When I do sleep, I have strange dreams, mostly of alien invasions and Dobermans ravaging my lifeless body. If I'm lucky, I catch an hour here and there before the dreams come. The ambulance that hauled Mrs. Crenshaw away wasn't a dream, just another reason to be awake. And Roscoe hasn't called in a week, so I'm awake all the time. I spend the rest of the night and most of the day staring at the wallpaper, which is beginning to curl like ferns at the seams, while infomercials drone in my ears. I edge for an hour watching the TV screen, a new record, and need some fresh air. Mrs. Crenshaw's dog, a little Pomeranian named Leo, greets me at the door. He seems hot, his tongue clenched out the side of his face, dangling. I get the mail and let him in, fill a bowl with water. From my place on the sofa, as I watch him drink in his scruffy reflection, I wonder if Mrs. Crenshaw has finally bitten the dust. Again, I think about the money she owes. A few hours later, the phone rings. I dig it out of my pocket, hoping it's Roscoe, but it's a local number, so I ignore it. The same person calls me over and over and over again. Finally, I answer and say, "Leave me the fuck alone, please." "Is that the way you talk to your tenants now?" "I'm sorry, Mrs. Crenshaw. It's been a rough day." I say, "How are you? You okay? I saw the ambulance." "I'm fine, just some palpitations. I'll be home in a jiffy," she says. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about Roscoe." Silence swells the signal like water rushing a hose. "Well," I say, "what about him?" "You know what," she says. "Huh?" "I saw the knife that killed my brother," she says. "What?" "Now, what was I going to tell you? Oh, yeah. Where are you?" I say. "Are you with anybody? Hand the phone to somebody." "Yep," she says. I still have it. The connection dies. I call back numerous times over the course of several hours, only to be greeted with the recording that says the number I'm trying to reach is out of service. It turns out tuna straight out of the can isn't so bad with a little salt on it. I sit on the sofa dialing Roscoe, sprinkling my fish. When it goes to voicemail, I scoop some tuna into my mouth and try again. It's 4 a.m. Little Leo curled at my feet, the living room a cube of drab light, pretending like you're living in the lap of luxury. What a joke. But I am pretending. The tuna I'm eating is caviar, and my boyfriend hasn't left me for a young Portuguese boy. I make believe things are fine and normal. Soon enough, I'll have enough money for the Nissan I've been eyeing, I think. Then say it aloud. The phone rings, waking me from some form of half sleep at 5:30 in the morning. And Mrs. Crenshaw blurts before I can say anything, "I still have the knife that killed my brother." "What are you talking about, Mrs. Crenshaw? Are you with somebody? Anybody? Listen to me. Find somebody. Find somebody and hand the phone, please. I need to tell you about Roscoe," she says. "What the fuck is this? Some kind of sick geriatric joke? Just hand somebody the phone, Mrs. Crenshaw. Is that any way to talk to your tenants?" she says. "You know, I have to tell you something about Roscoe. I've had my suspicions for a long time. I don't know how exactly to say this, but I think he might be one of those, what do you call them? Sodomites? Are you fucking serious?" I say, laughing. "He's my boyfriend. Definitely. We fuck each other. I don't think I need to tell you about the entry point either." "Oh, I don't mind that. I just thought you should know," she says. "By the way, what is it now?" I say. "I still have the knife that killed my brother." "What is it with you? You're really starting to creep me out." "You'll see," she says. "What the fuck is that supposed to mean?" I say. A long period of breathing ensues, then knocking. Wait, hold on. Somebody's at the door. I open the door, blinded by dawn, and seated on her rocking chair, just as always, Mrs. Crenshaw says, "Well, what a surprise. I haven't seen you in weeks." "You're telling me? When they let you out? And what's with all these creepy phone calls about a knife and your dead brother?" "What? What are you talking about?" she says. "When did you get out of the hospital?" "I don't know what you're talking about. You okay? You don't look so good." She hoists herself to her feet. "Here," she says, "have a seat." Dazed, I ignore her offer, spin right around and go back inside. Roaches scatter about within crevices as my phone rings. I reach into my left pocket, then the other, come up empty-handed, and realize the ringing is distant and muffled, leading me on a weird scavenger hunt into the kitchen, where I find it on top of the refrigerator in a box of Frosted Flakes. "My God, you've answered. I've been so worried about you," says Roscoe. "Me? I thought you up and left me." "I've been calling you for a week. I almost called in a welfare check," he says. No, I lost my phone. We talk a while before my phone dies, maybe for good. And I start my search for the spade we bought for the garden we hadn't started yet. I thought killing the cat was a dream I'd wake up from, but even still, it was a beautiful day, can't deny it. And the sun, the spun gold heat beating into me as I dig, blooms into some kind of strange revelation of better things to come. I forget the stench of her mottled fur as I dig deeper and deeper into the earth, so effusive to the task I hardly noticed the little dog licking at my feet. And so what about the rent? One day, someday soon, perhaps. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Boy, this is a great piece. I love how disorienting this piece is. It's obviously like it's disorienting in terms of plot, right? It unfolds in a kind of way that drags you into this dream logic, but it's also wonderfully disorienting in terms of tone, because it goes from being really tense to being really fucking funny to being really like just sort of pitch black. And I don't know, man, it's a really good piece. It's a really good piece. And like many of your best pieces, it has a wonderful grasp of surrealism that goes beyond just being like a lot of writers seem to think it's enough to like being weird is enough to make your piece feel surreal or to feel dreamlike or feel like it is following some kind of deep subconscious logic. But I think you understand that it takes a lot more than that. And your pieces really do feel like they follow this like really intimate, purely psychological logic that I always enjoy, And and the conversation between the narrator and the tenant about the boyfriend is so funny. And it's doubly funny because she keeps interrupting with the like really insidious implication of this lost knife that was used to kill her brother. And to have that like juxtaposed with this like her her intimation that this guy might be gay, right? It's just really fucking funny. But anyway, it's good shit as usual, man.
Thanks so much, William.
Thank you. And so you were the last one on the docket, but I see Josh Sherman here, and I know Josh has never once given up an opportunity to be the center of attention. Josh, we need somebody to read. We're out of readers. It's only 9 o'clock. Do you want to read something?
I would, and I'm actually working on a few things, but nothing is ready yet, and I'm no longer workshopping as much here. Trying to keep my head down. Love Expat Press, by the way, and yeah, that's it.
Why, Josh? Why do you love Expat?
Well, I just find that they're not weird and cultish at all. I think they don't put out too many books, and the quality doesn't suffer with the rate at which they put out books. And I mean, I could go on. There are so many reasons, but I'll leave it at that.
Josh, what's your favorite Expat? What's your favorite book published by Expat?
Earnestly, so I haven't read that many. I won't be reading many more, I don't imagine. But The Vacation, I really enjoyed, actually, particularly the first half of it. But I like the overall book, like Garth Miro's The Vacation, which he gave to me at the reading in New York. And he said he would give it to me. And then he was like, oh, yeah, I'm selling these books, you know. And I was about to offer to pay, but I was like, no, he's already offered to give me for free, so I'm not going to give him anything for it. And then Eris's book is one that I actually haven't read, to be honest. I mean, for certain reasons. I mean, I had it, and then I've just kind of put off reading it. I've skimmed it, and not in the way that I skim other books. I mean, I've picked it up off my shelf multiple times, and I've read a page here and a page there.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah. It was in a box Manny at one point gave me like an expat care package that had almost every book they had published up to that point. And Eris's book was in there, and it's such a short book. And I don't know how many times I picked it up and looked at it and said, well, I'm going to read this. And then I just never fucking did while she was alive. Which
Yeah,
sucks
and then
because I wish I could have read it and said, because I know that when I do eventually like read it, I'm going to enjoy it, because every piece of her writing that she read here or that I read elsewhere, I fucking enjoyed. But it sucks to know that I'll never get the opportunity to be like something as simple as, hey, I read your book, I really enjoyed it, you know?
No, likewise, and that's kind of, I mean, anyways, you can imagine I think we're on the same page in terms of why we maybe have avoided. But this year, I'm going to confront that and I'm going to read it, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. But those would actually be the only two from their catalog that I've read. I didn't even read Derek's because there was a delivery mishap. Someone was doing cocaine and something happened, and I didn't actually get the book. It was supposed to be delivered to me, and it didn't happen, and Derek has yet to mail it to me. But I have a huge to read pile anyways. So, but I'm sure I will also like Derek's because I've liked all the pieces that he read here and saw kind of characters develop. But yeah, those would be the only three that I've even encountered. Like, I don't know. I want to read Gwen's book just so I can like not like it. But I don't have that in my hands yet.
Oh, Josh, imagine Josh reading Gwen's book and loving it. What would that experience be like? Would that like help to mend the rift between the two of you? Or would that just make you more bitter and resentful?
Them being a different person would help mend the rift. But I will say that I've had this experience before, even with a writer who I didn't know personally, but a close friend of mine did, Guillaume Morissette, and we really disliked him. And then I read his first novel and I really liked it. And I mean, in that case, and then I met him subsequently and we got along, and he was a really nice guy. And he's one of my favorite Canadian writers. But I did have that experience of going into something, hating it. There's a Vice article about him that roasts his first book, which was poetry and stories. And I like joyously read that as he was kind of thrown under the bus. And so I was prepared to hate it. And that's why I force myself to read things that I hate. Like I read Rupi Kaur, like I read her book and I also didn't like it, but I do. And it's doubly satisfying because I actually do like walking away from, if I walk into it wanting to hate it and I like it, I've just read a good book. And if I walk into something expecting to hate it and I hate it, then I'm like vindicated.
You just had your biases confirmed. Nothing feels as good as that, right?
Exactly. So no, I would read it and I want to read it for the latter outcome, but I could be won over by it. You know, if I like it, I'll like it.
Okay. So you don't have anything to read tonight though?
No. Consider that my piece.
I was just gonna say, Josh, you know what? You did just present a little piece of art for us. So thank you for that, man. And you filled a little bit of time here. And you're here in time for the after party. Okay.
By the way, I just want to say Troy asked a question. And I only say nice things about Troy. And as you know, William, when you leave the room, I say really nice things about you too.
That's true, because I just like I say I'm leaving and then I bend down and hide behind the computer and see what people are saying. No, I just happened to be like coming back in after going downstairs to go to the bathroom. But Josh was saying the kindest things about me. I've never totally out of sync of what he says when I'm here. But yeah, man, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Oh, okay. So last call here. Does anyone have anything they want to read before we move on to the after party? And for the record, Troy, I have heard Josh talk about your work when you're not here, and he's not lying. He's effusive in his praise of your work, really. All right, that's it. We'll call it there. All right. Thank you to everyone who read tonight. I'm going to, as usual, keep the Zoom meeting open for a while for people who just want to hang out. Yeah, a lot of great fucking work read tonight, as usual. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, we do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. And we tweet out the link from our Twitter account @MiseryTourism. And anyone is welcome to come and hang out. Anyone is welcome to come and just join us and read their work. Just like, you may want to set your name in such a way if you're a newcomer so that you don't seem like a troll, because there are times when I just don't let people in because we're getting overthrown by trolls, and people's names look suspicious sometimes. Anyway, that's it. We're gonna end it there. Thank you once again to everyone who read. It's been a fun night. Fuck it, we're done.